Charles, it is an epic, historic day, and
That it is,
forgive
and it is a pleasure to be on air with you.
just
Yeah,
briefly, forgive my low energy, but I woke up this morning feeling slightly like I might be coming down with the flu. So if I'm a little quiet during today's show, that's the reason. But Charles Donald Trump is going to be the 47th president of the United States. Pretty awesome.
possibly the 48th. We'll get into that. But I think yes, the results are still being digested, and in fact, they're still coming in at certain important locations. But for this audience, the high level, I think, analysis that I see. Well, first of all, I was asked by the folks over at Sputnik to give a reaction, and I did it early this morning, very early this morning, your time, and it's already published. The three reasons why Trump won, um, but this will go down in history, I believe, as one of the worst campaigns ever attempted for not just the presidency, but also for down ticket Democrats. Because what has happened is that decisions that were made by Democratic Party bosses, for example, not to have a real primary in 2024, that decision alone was remarkably stupid, because the benefit of the primary is you battle harden the ultimate victor, and you give that person the chance to really practice against an opponent who, in the case of Trump, would be tougher than any Democratic primary opponent. So it was a big
Well,
mistake
excuse me, Charles.
not to.
Isn't the purpose also to find somebody that people actually want to vote for?
Oh, come on, jeez. Not in the Democratic Party. I mean, look, Shifty Schiff, they just put him in. He won in a landslide in California. It's amazing. I mean, Peanut could have won in California. Peanut would do a better job, except Peanut's dead. But what I was talking to a number of people preparing for this show, and one of them was particularly inspired, mentioned that not only in the federal, executive, the presidential race, the Senate, the House, not only have those all gone rather convincingly in the direction not simply of Republicans, but of conservative MAGA Republicans. But a bigger story, even than that, is that in many House and Senate state legislatures, they too have rejected the wokesters and are going in the correct direction. That is, I think, that summary there is behind the scenes. Rantingly has it at 286 for Trump, and the mainstream media has its finger on the scale. They, rather than reporting what they should have reported this morning or last night, that in a remarkable comeback, significant in historical proportions, epic defining, Trump has led an improbable return to the White House, and shattered the traditional tectonic plates that underlie the American political system by putting together a coalition of unusual friends. I mean, he's got Muslim votes, he's got Jewish votes, he's got Black and Hispanic, he's got people who didn't like him, Democrats who didn't like him, Republicans who didn't like him have come together. He's put together this amazing coalition of winners, what I call in the Sputnik piece a diverse dream team. And most people, I mean, the Woody Allen types are not like this, but most people want to hang around with winners. They want to be on the winning team. And the Biden, Harris, Clinton, Obama team is a team of corrupt and arrogant losers. I mean, on my Twitter feed, I decided that I could now be a bit more aggressive now that Trump has won, and it looks like convincingly so. So I was sort of smack talking against Michelle and against Barack. I mean, they were trying last night this idea that, well, we want to count every vote, and they thought they had the stomach to go back again and do in 2024 what they did in 2020. But that's not possible anymore. Trump won the popular vote. And one point that I think we're going to get more into once Trump gets his attorney general in and the IRS cleaned out, the Department of Justice cleaned out. When you look at the vote totals, 2020 totals were clear aberrations, way, way higher than 2024. The population in America is much bigger in 2024 than it was in 2020. So please explain this gigantic leap up in total votes for Dems and Republicans, and in particular for Biden, that crashed in 2024. Explain that. You can't, other than by cheating. And so, here, in some ways, the fact that persons unknown may have stolen the 2020 election, thanks to Trump's health, has actually put him in a better place now in 2024 and afterwards to effect reforms that would have been more difficult to effect in 2021. We have academia discredited, the mainstream media discredited, both political party leaders discredited, all the wise-ass globalists discredited, all the pundits discredited, the pollsters discredited, and Fauci discredited, all this follow the science people. And who is ascendant? Musk is ascendant, Kennedy is ascendant, citizen journalists are ascendant, Trump is ascendant, and the common man and woman is ascendant. So I think the conditions are now set to affect the kind of changes that are long overdue to get America back on the true growth track. And it comes in an excellent time because Europe, an alternative place to invest capital, is beset by the woke morons who are too influential at the World Economic Forum and in key markets. I'm happy to explain that I'm currently in London right now. And I did tweet out for a couple of days running that it was an extreme error on the part of the government of the UK. The actual government sent people into America to work with Democrats to try to help Kamala Harris win the election and try to frustrate Trump. If I'm Donald Trump, knowing that, I am going to exact more than a pound of revenge. And this Keir Starmer, who runs the hard left guy who runs as Prime Minister of the UK, his popularity is plunged pre the election. Now it should be a cold day in hell before we do any favors for his government. And I love this, this one. Maybe you should have attended the Al Smith dinner.
Well, she made so many mistakes. I mean, in addition to this being like the worst campaign ever for Democrats, I think Trump's is maybe the best political campaign ever run by anybody.
Right. And so you're sitting there, and going back to why I said Trump may be the 48th president, you're sitting there as Obama, as Hillary, as Bill, as Michelle, as George W. Bush, as corrupt actors in the FBI, the Justice Department, the IRS. And now you have to say, my gosh, I need pardons, and lots of them. So how do we affect that? Biden has no political future, and Kamala has. I suppose they could recycle her through the California corrupt system and give her some state post or put her back in the Senate. But as a national politician, she's done. Big money's never going to put more money behind her. She's horrible, unfixable, unteachable, and extremely arrogant. So what you may end up what these people could be pushing for is for either Biden or Harris to start using the pardon power. And Biden could pardon himself, but wow, I mean, in particular, given that we know Trump is going to be the president, you do that, and all hell's going to break loose once Trump is seated. So what they may want is they may say to Kamala, okay, Biden will step down if you do the pardoning. You pardon Biden, you pardon, Obama, you pardon the Clintons. But I see that's the next big dance, because the president of the United States does have unchecked pardon power.
She would essentially be a shell, right?
Huh?
She'd be like a shell president just for pardoning. And the deal
Well,
would be
but she's
you'd
the
go
show
down
now.
in
They're both
history
lame
as the
ducks.
first female president. Well, the attractive offer to her could be history would remember you as the first female president, and she's the kind of loser who just wants the trophy, whether she won it or not.
Exactly. Exactly. And, you're sitting there. I'm reminded of, who was the guy? It was Kerry and John. What was the guy's name? The senator from North Carolina?
Edwards?
Yeah, John Edwards. There's a famous story that, he was all set. He thought he was going to win, be the vice president of the United States, and as such, be in power for 8 years as vice president and then be president for 8 years. And he got crushed thanks to the efforts of Jerry Corsi and others. And later he was, he went on a bender, downward spiral, and he would be hanging out in bars at some beach town in North Carolina, unkempt and disheveled, and chatting up strangers, and bragging, someday, I was nearly vice president of the United States, and like as you and I were going through Washington Square Park, commenting on Methuselah probably looked like a stronger candidate in that bar. But and one of the people I think who really deserves to be marked down in stature is Barack Obama. I mean, what he did the day before the election to whip up a crowd using that very fine people hoax that even Democrats, even people like Bill Maher, and even Snopes has said that's bullshit. But B-Rock got up in that ridiculous, get up that he gets when he tries to look cool, no jacket and his sleeves rolled up and his ears like sails. He went down that whole, line of argument that Trump is a danger to democracy. And people have been saying, the wags on Free Republic are hilarious. And one of them was saying, that he used AI to replace all this speak where people say there's a threat to democracy. He replaced it with a threat to bureaucracy. And then everything they say makes a lot more sense if you say the Democrats are concerned about the threats posed by Trump to bureaucracy. So, this is a monumental result. It's not, frankly, as strong as I had hoped it would be, but it's strong enough.
That's what I was going to say. It's a little ridiculous that Kamala won any state at all. I think that was cheating. But Trump was right. He made it too big to rig.
Right. And it's a remarkable coalition. It truly is. So the challenge now is putting together the second administration. And I think and hope that Trump has learned from his mistakes the first time. Elon Musk, he's been doing not enough, I would guess, on his core businesses because he's been spending so much time on Twitter. But he's got new animations and videos, and he's all in for dark MAGA, which I think means, you go in, if criminal behavior happened in 2020 or beforehand or afterwards, you punish it. You don't just say, let's bygones be bygones and move on. No, we're going to go after the rough people. And that's what he wants. That's what I want. I think that's what you want. Because Charles, you can't let the precedent stand, as happens in these big multinational companies, for example, with GE. GE was committing fraud after fraud for decades. Jack Welch, the CEO, who was centrally involved in my view and is now thankfully dead, he walks away at the end of his tenure at GE with $1 billion in proceeds of GE common stock. And the shareholders get screwed, and the pensioners get screwed, and the governments get screwed. That's basically what's happening in politics now. You can go in, promise anybody, use taxpayer money to pretend that things are going right. And when you get caught, you retreat to a post at the Brookings Institution, and maybe you teach at Columbia, and you do this, and then I get a book deal and whatever. That can't continue. We can't have that shit. It needs to be real downside when you fuck up.
Charles, Elon Musk said something pretty interesting to Joe Rogan. He said that before he purchased, they were talking about video games and stuff, and apparently Elon Musk is like a world champion of Diablo. obviously he's very good at getting to the top of whatever he does. And he said that, they were talking about why he bought Twitter. And he said he was the most interacted with account. And he made an important and interesting statement that even though he was the most interacted with before he bought it, Barack Obama had more followers. He's talking to the fakeness of it. Right.
Yeah. He has to get down a level of detail into Twitter. Another thing that came out of that Rogan Musk discussion, they were talking about, why does Obama hate Trump, and the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and the subject of the birth certificate came up. And both Rogan and Musk were dismissive of what you see and I see. And it's not, I honestly don't care where he was born. What I care about is it was an obvious ruse to pretend, first to hide, the long form birth certificate, and then to pretend that what was provided to the lawyers who flew all the way out to Hawaii was a legitimate document. When even I'm not a document expert, you are, even I understand that you didn't need to fly all the way out to Hawaii to retrieve an electronic document. And then you get into, when you look underneath the hood at the electronic document, it's an obvious forgery. So I'm surprised they were both so dismissive of that point. And I hope they revisit it.
I have a feeling they're going to get educated by their audience there because this document is an obvious forgery. I mean, anybody who says that it isn't very probably hasn't even looked at it for 1 second.
Right. Yeah, and you take somebody like you who's, spent decades with images and software and doing many more things, but to you see instantly the problems. And it's almost worthwhile perhaps doing another special show on it. I don't think we want to do it today, but soup to nuts on why this is a forgery and why it's significant that, that people pretended this forgery was legitimate when it's not.
Well, Charles, we're at the precipice of a new era in the United States of America. If Donald Trump's going to restore justice and prosecute all the people who screwed up 2016 and 2020, that could be really something huge. But we're really just at the beginning of a huge struggle as well. Right.
Exactly. And just on that point, in order to rip the thing that needs to rip the scab off the wound and redress it with the proper ointment, we have to get into Iran-Contra and the fact that that was very bad what happened. That was similar to the Clinton Foundation in a smaller scale, but the fact that it was bad and was covered up gave the Clintons, in my view, the ammunition they needed to try to keep the truth about the Clinton Foundation hidden from the public. I don't think they're going to be able to do that. And in news that will be interesting to you that we can talk about either offline or in another show, Barbara Ladine's husband, Michael Ladine, was centrally involved in Iran-Contra.
Yeah, I noticed that yesterday. He came up because, we'll get into that in the future, but he was associated with Peter Smith, and we didn't I didn't even know about him before a few days ago, but...
And the guy, the person that Barbara Ladine is close to, and Michael Ladine is, that I was trying to remember yesterday, is Frank Gaffney.
Gaffney?
Yeah. We'll talk about him.
It's interesting that you brought this back to Iran-Contra, Charles, because when you think about it, it's really quite similar to what's going on in Ukraine. I mean, this is almost like a template for foreign policy, isn't it? A criminal one.
Exactly. And we're seeing, I'm of course in a different time zone than you all, and so I get to see stuff while you're sleeping and vice versa. But what just came over the wires before I went on air here with you is that the Houthis just instantly said, "That's it. We're done. We're not fighting. We're ceasing hostilities."
Well, I was going to say, will Trump end the Ukraine war tonight?
Well, Zelensky's already congratulated him.
Charles, I think we'll need to do the First Amendment Forum on Sunday. I'm just feeling a little bit like I should rest today and this is like right on the edge. I don't want to get the flu.
All right, please. That's better for me. I've got a black tie event to go.
I know you're busy there where you are. And I'm glad we were able to get together. And thanks to everybody who's been with us following, and congratulations to Donald Trump. But let's wrap it up here, and we'll talk again on Sunday.
One quick thing to say: I think we owe a debt of gratitude to the volunteers and the people who are out there, convincing people to get out and vote and affect the kind of constructive change that now is coming for all Americans, regardless of their party affiliation. We truly owe a debt of gratitude to them, and of course to the Trump family and the many people in the Trump coalition, and to you, Jason. You there?
Yes.